Imagine a desert so vast and unforgiving it's called the Sea of Death. Now, picture this. Buried beneath its sands, thousands of miles from Europe, lie perfectly preserved mummies with blonde hair, long noses, and striking Caucasoid features. This isn't a fantasy novel. This is the Tarim Basin in China, home to one of archaeology's greatest enigmas. For decades, these mummies have baffled scientists and challenged our understanding of ancient history. Who were these people? How did they end up in the heart of China over 3,000 years ago? Today, we're diving deep into the mystery, using cutting-edge DNA science to unlock a story that will completely rewrite the history books. The discovery of the Tarim mummies was nothing short of revolutionary. Found in the Xinjiang region of western China, these bodies were naturally mummified by the arid, salty desert soil. The dry conditions preserved not just their bodies but also their clothes, tools, and even the food they ate. One of the most famous is the beauty of Lulan, a woman who died nearly 4,000 years ago. Her European features are unmistakable, from her high cheekbones to her reddish-brown hair, and she's not alone. Hundreds of others, including men, women, and even children, share these same characteristics. For a long time, their existence was a political and historical hot potato. The idea of an ancient European population thriving deep within what is now China challenged the traditional narrative of a culturally isolated and singular origin for Chinese civilization. Some early theories suggested they were an army of lost soldiers, or perhaps a wandering tribe of Indo-Europeans who simply got lost and settled there. But the truth, as we're now discovering, is far more complex and fascinating. The key to unlocking their identity lies hidden within their DNA. Initial DNA studies in the early 2000s threw gasoline on the fire. They confirmed that the mummies had a West Eurasian genetic profile, linking them to populations from Europe and Siberia. The immediate conclusion for many was that these were migrants, outsiders who brought their culture with them. This seemed to fit with some of the archaeological evidence. For example, the textiles found with the mummies are incredible. They wore intricately woven woolen fabrics, including tartans that bear a startling resemblance to ancient Celtic patterns from Scotland. How could a pattern from Iron Age Europe appear in Bronze Age China? It seemed to be a clear case of cultural transmission from west to east. But science is a process of constant refinement. And a groundbreaking study published in the journal Nature in 2021 turned everything on its head. A team of international scientists conducted a massive genomic analysis of the earliest mummies, those from around 2100 to 1700 BCE. They sequenced the DNA of 13 individuals from the Shaohui and Gomagu cemeteries, the oldest sites in the Tarim Basin. What they found was astonishing. These people were not recent migrants from the West. Instead, they were a genetically isolated local population. So, where did they come from? The DNA showed that this group was a direct mix of two much older Ice Age populations from Asia. About 72% of their ancestry came from a group known as the ancient North Eurasians, or AIN. This was a widespread hunter-gatherer population that roamed across Siberia and Central Asia during the Pleistocene. You can find traces of their DNA in Native Americans and modern-day Siberians. The other 28% of their ancestry came from a group called the Ancient Northeast Asians, or ANA, who were genetically related to people in East Asia. The crucial finding is that these two groups mixed together thousands of years before the Tarim mummies lived. Sometime after the last ice age, these two populations met, merged, and then remained genetically isolated for millennia. They weren't newcomers. They were a unique, indigenous population that had been in the region for a very long time. This discovery solves one mystery but opens up another, even bigger one. If these people were genetically isolated, how do we explain their culture? Because culturally, they were anything but isolated. Their entire lifestyle was based on things that came from somewhere else. For example, they were herders, raising cattle, sheep, and goats. But these animals were not native to the region. They were first domesticated in the Near East. The mummies' diet was rich in wheat, barley, and millet, all crops that originated thousands of miles away in the Fertile Crescent and East Asia respectively. They even consumed dairy products like kefir, a practice traced back to the Caucasus region. Think about what this means. Here you have a population that didn't interbreed with its neighbors. Yet they were actively adopting and combining technologies and ideas from every direction. They were living at a nexus point, a Bronze Age melting pot of culture, long before we thought the Silk Road even existed. They took the best ideas from the West like animal herding and wheat farming and combined them with ideas from the East, like millet cultivation. They built their entire society on borrowed culture. This completely shatters the old view of ancient civilizations developing in isolation. It shows us a world that was interconnected in ways we never imagined. Let's go back to those incredible textiles, the tartans. The old theory was that Celts or their ancestors must have brought the technique with them. But the new DNA evidence proves this wrong. The people wearing the tartans were genetically local. So, what's the explanation? It's likely that the idea of weaving wool into complex diagonal patterns traveled, not the people themselves. Wool production itself came from the West, but these local people became master weavers, developing their own unique styles while using a technique that was spreading across Eurasia. They were cultural sponges, absorbing innovations and making them their own. Their burial practices are another testament to this blend of ideas. The mummies were often buried in boat-shaped coffins, a practice reminiscent of Vikings, but their graves were marked with tall wooden posts that symbolized fertility, a tradition seen in many different ancient cultures across Eurasia. They even placed sprigs of ephedra, a medicinal plant, with the deceased, a practice also found among other Indo-European groups far to the west. They weren't just borrowing farming techniques. They were participating in a shared world of rituals, symbols, and beliefs. The story of the Tarim Basin mummies is a powerful reminder that history is not a straight line. It's a messy, interconnected web. These people show us that you don't need mass migration for ideas to travel. Technology, agriculture, and even fashion can spread from person to person, group to group, across vast distances. They were a testament to human ingenuity and adaptability, creating a thriving and complex culture in one of the world's harshest environments by being open to the world around them. So, what happened to them? After about 800 BCE, new groups did begin to move into the Tarim Basin, bringing new languages and new genes. The unique genetic signature of the original mummy population was diluted and eventually disappeared as they mixed with these newcomers. But their legacy lived on. They had turned the unforgiving desert into a crucial bridge between East and West, laying the cultural groundwork for what would, 1,000 years later, become the famous Silk Road. They were the original pioneers of global connection. The tale of these blonde-haired mummies of China is more than just a spooky archaeological find. It's a story about our shared human past. It proves that for millennia, our ancestors were not isolated tribes but a global community, trading, talking, and learning from each other. The evidence was buried under the sand all along, waiting for us to uncover it. It forces us to ask what other known facts of history are just waiting to be rewritten. Thanks for joining us on this journey back in time. If you found this story as mind-blowing as we did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the mysteries of our past. Let us know in the comments what ancient puzzle you'd like us to explore next. See you in the next one.